the 8-step buyer standard operating procedure, SOP. So I designed this so that you can offer value that is different from other agents to the buyers that you're working with. And at the same time, you can dramatically increase your income by leveraging your buyers to get listings and double dipping transactions. So let's go through this, but let's talk about one of the problems that buyers have to begin with. So I'm speaking to Mr. and Mrs. Jones in this situation. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, how long have you been looking for a house? Well, we've been looking for a house now for many months. What do you find is the biggest problem? Well, we're not finding houses that we like, and when we do find houses we like, there's a lot of competition. There's multiple offers on the property. We're financing. We're actually going to be asking the seller to pay a little bit of closing costs, and we're up against cash offers and sometimes people offering more on the property, so we're not able to get the house that we want to get. Can I share with you what my clients appreciate about what I'm doing that is different? And of course they say yes. I say, so what we do is we find properties that are off the market, houses that are coming onto the market but haven't got there yet, so you get to see them before anyone else. Let me explain. So you like the property in Deer Creek. So what we're going to do is several things. One of the things that we do is we actually call every owner in Deer Creek and we ask them if they have an interest in selling their home. We door knock, we mail, we do a lot of different things, but here's the point. We're going to try to come up with 2 to 3 houses that you get to see that nobody else would. Would you be interested in us doing that for you? Now let's think about this for a second. Had you separated yourself from the competition? 100%. Had you added a value to the buyer that you work with? Absolutely. Now we actually get to do what we said we're going to do. And I'm going to give you the 8-step buyer SOP. And if you do these steps on every buyer that you have, you're going to find yourself selling more real estate, selling real estate quicker, adding huge value to your buyers, which is good to cause, obviously, referrals. And at the same time, you're going to double dip transactions and you're going to get listings. So let's start on the first one. The first one is expired listings. So obviously you have a search set up in the MLS, and your search in the MLS has all the active properties. All you have to do is switch active properties to expired, go back as long as you want. I go back 5 years, but go back as far as you want and find the houses that are expired. See, the whole list that comes up at this point when we change it to expired, the entire list are houses that people wanted to sell at some point. There's a button on most MLSs, it's a history button. We click the history button, we can look at the most recent activity on that property. So this one has been sold, and this one is now pending, and this one is on the market, but this one here, it's still expired. I'm going to reach out to that person. And here's the script I'm going to use. Ring, ring. Hi, my name is Dave Thompson. I'm a real estate agent. Wonder if I could ask you a quick question. Yeah, go ahead. Well, I noticed that you had your house on the market a couple years ago, and I'm just wondering if you had any interest in still selling your home. Well, we decided to take it off the market, and we might do it in the future. Well, I'm telling you, the reason why I am calling is because we have a buyer looking for a home just like yours. And I'm wondering if I can match the two of you up. Would you be open-minded to showing your house to the buyer that I have? Not for a listing, but just to see if there might be an interest there. Oh, definitely, without a question, you can show my house. Let's walk this forward. I now have a seller or a potential seller that has an interest in selling the house. So I have a buyer who that house may match. I'm going to show the property. Worst case scenario, the individual buys the house. And by the way, I'm not making my normal buyer commission, whatever that might be. I'm actually making probably both sides of that transaction. I've increased my income. And yes, I said, this is the worst case scenario, because the best case scenario is that that buyer didn't like the house. You still have a buyer looking, and this potential seller is going to list with you. Look, their own agent probably never even showed that house. You've come and brought a buyer to the property. They told you they have an interest in selling. That is a lay down all day long listing for you. You are going to leverage that buyer to get listings or double dip the transaction. Let's go on to number 2. So number 2 is for sale by owners. We're going to do the same technique with for sale by owners. We're going to call them and say, hey, I have a buyer that is actually looking and wonder if I could show your house. Now, typically, you're not going to get a double-sided commission here. But what you are going to do is you're going to get your buyer under contract a lot quicker than you normally would. Look, if we take the amount of time that we work with a buyer, especially if it's in a competitive market, and we take that amount of time and we divide our hours, we make this much money. But if we can sell them a house very quick, they're happy and we make more money per hour. If the buyer doesn't have an interest, you got an opportunity to possibly list that home. So expireds, for sale by owner. 3, 4, and 5 have to do with an area. So it's geo-calling, it's geo-mailing, and it's geo-doors. So this buyer said they had an interest in Deer Creek. So what I'm going to do is exactly what I said I was going to do. I'm going to call every owner in Deer Creek and I'm going to ask them if they had an interest possibly in selling the house. Now, we know that typically in some areas of the country, it's 5%, 1 out of 20 homes sell every year in a neighborhood. And in some areas, it's 10%, 1 out of 10. But between 10 to 20 of those contacts are going to sell their house this year. So we only have to make so many contacts to get that yes. And we're going to do the same thing in doors, and we're going to send a mailer out. And we're going to show the property. And if the buyer likes the house, we're going to write the contract. The buyer doesn't like the house, we potentially have a listing. So we have expireds, we have for sale by owners, geo-doors, geo-calling, and geo-mailing. The next one I call the 10-year plan. And what this is we're going to take the neighborhood they have an interest in, and we are going to bring up all the properties in the last 10 years. You can use it any time you want, but I use 10 years. We're going to bring up all the properties in the last 10 years that have sold. And we're going to start basing it on what they're looking for. They want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, at least 1,500 square feet. And we're going to bring the list down to a house that they might have an interest in. We're going to actually call the owners of the houses that match, because we can go through and look at the pictures and we can say these are the top 15 houses that if this was on the market today, the buyer would have an interest in that property. And in that case, we're going to reach out to the owner. And the call is actually a lot more specific. Mr. Jones, I noticed that you bought a house 5 years ago. Would you mind if I ask you a question about your house? Sure. I think you have the greenhouse with the pink shutters on the corner of Henry and Smith, don't you? And he says, yes. And I said, do you have any interest in selling it? I have a buyer that's looking for a house just like yours. Look, guys, you only need to make about 15 of those calls and you'll double dip a transaction. Let's go on to number 7. So the next one is actually your database. So if you run a big team, your database should be huge because all your agents should have all their sphere of influence in their database plus past clients. So you could be dealing with 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. If you're a single agent, you have the people you know. And here's the thing that I see often with realtors. They spend a lot of time bragging about, I just sold this, this one's pending, I just brought this to the market. Instead, why don't we change our conversation? Why don't we say, I have a buyer looking for this? See, if you're constantly sending that to your database, I have a buyer looking for this, you're changing the perspective of how they see you are. And what I mean by that is when they're getting ready to sell their house, they'll say, you always have buyers, so I'm going to call you. Plus, if you're doing this activity, what you're doing is actually creating conversations with somebody that might have that house. And therefore, you're going to list a property and sell it and probably make twice the commission. Step number 8 is a little bit more advanced, but not hard to do. It's if you know how to do video and you know how to do YouTube advertising. So what we're going to do is we're going to target the zip code, target the area of the house, and this is the message that I'm going to run. Hi, my name is David Thompson. I'm a realtor, and the reason why you're seeing this ad is because I have somebody that's looking for a house in the Deer Creek area or around the Deer Creek area. If you happen to own a house like that and you have any interest in selling, please give me a call. See, most agents only rely on listed properties. we actually reach out every day to individuals and place people together. So if you have any interest in selling your house, please reach out to me. My name is Dave Thompson, and give your phone number. Look, if you have 10 buyers that are looking for houses and you're running 10 of those videos across town, wow, that will sure put you on the map. So I'm just going to summarize real quick all of these techniques. We got expired calling, we got for sale by owners, we got geo-calling, geo-doors, and geo-mail. We have the 10-year plan, we have the database, and then we also have the YouTube advertising. Those are 8 steps. Let me ask you this question. If you were doing this with every buyer you have, would you be offering a higher level service to your buyers? Yes. Would you get referrals because you found them a house that is off the market? Yes. Would you get listings from doing this? Of course you would. Would you double dip transactions? Yes. And guess what? Would you win the buyer presentation? Without a question, because you have a value that you're offering that other agents aren't. 8-step buyer SOP. If you put this in place, your income is going to dramatically go up. Your career is going to go up.